There's a scene in Suits where Harvey Specter walks into a deposition completely outnumbered, outlawyered, and outresourced, and within 10 minutes, he's got the other side sweating. He didn't bring more evidence, he didn't have a better legal argument. What he had was something harder to teach and harder to fake. And I remember watching that scene on a Tuesday night, sitting in my apartment, and thinking, I know people like this. Not lawyers, not fictional characters, real people I've worked with, competed against, reported to. And I also thought, I am not one of them. Not yet. So this video is me working that out in public. A breakdown of what Harvey Specter actually represents. Not the suit, not the one-liners, but the operating system underneath. Because here's the thing most people get wrong when they talk about Harvey. They think it's about being arrogant. It's not. It's about something way more specific than that. And I want to break that down piece by piece, because once I understood it, I started seeing it everywhere. And more importantly, I started doing it. Let's get into it. Number one, and this is the foundation everything else sits on, Harvey doesn't perform confidence, he operates from it. There's a difference, and it matters enormously. Performing confidence is what most people do. It's loud, it's defensive, it collapses the second someone pushes back. Operating from confidence is quieter and way more durable. It doesn't need to announce itself, it just moves. I spent a long time performing confidence in meetings, talking over people, jumping in early, making sure my voice was in the room. And I thought that was it. That's the thing. And then I worked alongside someone who did the opposite, who sat back, listened, asked one question, and somehow ended the meeting having shaped the outcome more than anyone else in there. And I started watching that person like a hawk. What Harvey does, what that real person did, is they never need external validation to feel settled. That's the operational definition of confidence that most self-help content completely misses. It's not about how you carry yourself physically, not about the clothes, not about the voice. It's about not needing the room to affirm you in order to function well. And the way you build that, you have to actually be competent at something. Harvey's confidence isn't manufactured. It's backed by 10,000 hours of knowing exactly what he's doing in a courtroom. The swagger isn't the thing. It's a byproduct of the thing. Which means if you try to copy the swagger without doing the work, you just look like someone cosplaying a character. That's the first uncomfortable truth in this video, and there are more coming. Number two, and this one changed how I approach almost everything. Harvey plays to win. Most people play not to lose, and those two things produce completely different behaviors. Playing not to lose looks like hedging everything, sending the email with 3 qualifiers on every sentence, proposing the safe option in the meeting, not the good one, staying quiet when you have something worth saying because you're calculating the risk of being wrong. I did all of this. I still do some of it. It's a deeply human pattern because it's rooted in loss aversion, which is wired into us at a biological level. Harvey operates in the opposite direction. He decides what he wants the outcome to be, and then he reverse engineers the path to get there. He doesn't ask, what could go wrong? He asks, what does winning look like? And what do I need to do right now to make that the most likely result? There's a line he has in an early season, something like, I don't play the odds, I play the man. That's not arrogance for the sake of arrogance. That's a genuine operating principle. He's saying, I don't let probability dictate my behavior. I figure out the human in front of me and I move accordingly. Now, and this is where I want to push back on Harvey slightly because I think it's important, playing to win without ethical guardrails is just manipulation, and Harvey crosses that line repeatedly in the show. The show knows this, it's part of his arc. So what I'm taking from this principle isn't win at any cost, it's the mental posture of going into situations with a clear intent, a clear preferred outcome, and the willingness to actually pursue it instead of just hoping it happens. Most people walk into important conversations with no clear goal. They react to what the other person says. Harvey never reacts. He decides and then he moves toward the decision. Number 3, Harvey controls the frame. Always. And this is maybe the most transferable thing in this entire breakdown. A frame, for anyone who hasn't come across his concept, is basically the unspoken context of an interaction. It's who's evaluating whom. It's whose standards of success are being applied. And in any given conversation or negotiation, someone is setting the frame and someone is operating inside someone else's frame. Harvey is almost never operating inside someone else's frame. Here's a concrete example from the show. A client comes in angry, threatening to fire the firm. Most lawyers in that position immediately become defensive. They go into explanation mode, justification mode, apology mode. They accept the client's frame. You messed up, now convince me otherwise. Harvey does the opposite. He lets the client finish, and then he reframes the entire interaction around what the client actually needs, not what the client is feeling. And suddenly, the client is no longer the one doing the evaluating. They're the one listening. I've seen this done in real life in a performance review of all places. A manager I knew was getting critiqued by his director. Instead of defending his work, he said something like, "I think what we're actually talking about is whether my priorities were aligned with the team's direction. So let's look at that." And within 5 minutes, the conversation had shifted from "here are your failures" to "here's how we align going forward." He didn't get defensive, he didn't concede, he reframed. Controlling the frame is a skill that takes practice because the instinct when you're under pressure is to accept the frame you're being given. Someone's angry at you and your brain says, "I need to fix the anger." Harvey's brain says, "I need to figure out what's actually going on here." That's the difference. Number 4, Harvey is always the most prepared person in the room, and he uses that preparation like a weapon. This one is maybe the least glamorous point in the video because it's just work. There's no psychological trick here, no mindset reframe. Harvey reads everything, knows everything about the case, the client, the opposing counsel, the judge. He walks into rooms knowing things other people don't know he knows. And that changes how he carries himself, because confidence that's backed by preparation is completely different from confidence that's just projected. I want to tell you something honest here. There were stretches of my career where I was winging it, walking into meetings having skimmed the agenda, not having read the full document, hoping I could improvise my way through. And sometimes I could. But when I started actually over-preparing, studying before client calls, knowing the numbers cold before presenting them, thinking through objections before they happened, the experience of being in those rooms changed completely. I didn't need to perform. I just knew things. Harvey's preparation isn't just about facts either. It's about people. He does his research on the humans he's dealing with, their pressure points, their motivations, what they actually want underneath what they're saying they want. He shows up to negotiations knowing more about the other side than they're comfortable with. And that's genuinely an advantage you can replicate, because most people don't do this. Most people prepare for the content of a conversation without thinking about the human dynamics of it. Number 5, and this one gets skipped in every Harvey Specter listicle I've ever seen. Harvey is deeply loyal. And that loyalty is strategic in the best way. He protects Mike. He protects Donna. He protects Jessica when it matters. He builds a circle of people he trusts completely, and he goes to war for them. And in return, those people extend themselves for him in ways that have no formal job description. This is something I've come to believe more and more the further I get into my career. Your reputation for loyalty is one of the most powerful assets you can build. Not loyalty to institutions. Harvey has no blind loyalty to the firm as an entity. Loyalty to people. When someone in your circle needs you, you show up. No calculating whether it's worth it. You show up. The reason this is strategic rather than just nice is that it creates relationships that can't be bought. Jessica doesn't just like Harvey, she trusts him at a cellular level because he has proven through repeated behavior that he doesn't abandon people when it's inconvenient. That kind of trust is currency, real currency, and it compounds over time in a way that raw competence alone doesn't. I think there's a version of being a Harvey Specter that people try to build by being cold, calculating, transactional, and they miss that Harvey is genuinely warm inside the circle he's chosen. He's not warm with everyone, he's selective, but inside the circle, he's all in. Number 6. Harvey almost never lets you see him sweat. And this is different from being emotionless, which I think is another misread of the character. Harvey feels things. He panics sometimes. He cares deeply about outcomes, but he has built a practice, through therapy, through experience, through whatever, of not letting the emotional experience bleed into his outward behavior when the stakes are high. Because the moment you show panic, you've given the other side information, and information is leverage. The practical translation of this isn't suppress your emotions, it's learn to separate your internal state from your operational behavior, which is genuinely hard and takes time. But I've found one thing that helps: slowing down the pace of speech when I'm under pressure. Counterintuitively, speaking slower when I'm stressed actually reduces how stressed I feel, because the external behavior starts to feed back into the internal state. Harvey speaks slowly and clearly when the pressure is highest. It's subtle and worth watching for. Number 7. And yes, we're going to talk about the suits. Harvey's attention to his appearance is not vanity. It's deliberate communication. He has a line about this, something about you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. But the deeper point is that he understands that every signal you emit is data that other people are reading, consciously or not. The suit is a signal. The watch is a signal. The posture is a signal. He controls every one of those signals intentionally. Now, I'm not saying go spend money you don't have on clothes. That's not the lesson. The lesson is, are you thinking intentionally about the signals you're broadcasting? Because people are reading them whether you intend it or not. Walking in underdressed for a serious meeting isn't authentic self-expression. It's ceding control of the impression you're making. This doesn't mean conforming. Harvey's suits are distinctive. He looks like himself, not like everyone else. But he's made a deliberate choice about what that self looks like in public. That's the distinction between aesthetic as vanity and aesthetic as communication. Number 8, and I think this is actually the most important chapter, let me tell you where the Harvey Specter operating system breaks down. Because it does break down, repeatedly in the show and in real-life versions of this archetype. The weakness in Harvey's system is that his control needs are so high that he struggles to genuinely collaborate. He can delegate to people he trusts, but he can't easily share authority. He can't comfortably be wrong in public. He builds relationships that are loyal but hierarchical. People orbit Harvey. They don't partner with him as equals. And in a world where the most interesting work is genuinely collaborative, that's a meaningful limitation. The people I've seen build the most durable careers aren't the solo performers. They're the ones who can do what Harvey does and build environments where other people can be excellent around them. Harvey can't always do that second thing. So the real upgrade, the actual Chad behavior, if we're being honest, is taking Harvey's preparation, his frame control, his loyalty, his emotional regulation, his willingness to play to win, and combining it with a genuine humility about what you don't know and a genuine investment in the success of people around you. That's harder than wearing a good suit and speaking slowly, but it's the real thing. So here's what I actually think after going through all of this. Harvey Specter is not aspirational because he wins. He wins a lot, and it looks clean and it's satisfying to watch, but winning is a result, not the thing. The thing, the actual operating system underneath the character, is that he moves through the world like someone who has decided who he is and what he's doing, and he doesn't need anyone else's permission or validation to do it. And I think most of us are still waiting for permission at some level. Permission to take up space in rooms, permission to push back, permission to go after the outcome we actually want instead of the one that feels safe. Harvey never waits for permission, and that's the real lesson. If this hits something for you, drop it in the comments, specifically whether you think Harvey is a genuinely admirable figure or a cautionary tale. Because I've gone back and forth on that myself, and I'd actually like to know where people land. See you in the next one.